Hello, and welcome back to Dimmer, the podcast where we explore mental health in a gentle, honest way, adjusting the brightness so that life feels a little softer, calmer, and easier to navigate. In our last episode, we talked about relationships and how they shape our well-being. We explored the ways family, friends, partners, and colleagues can either nurture or challenge our mental health. But there's another side to relationships that we didn't dive into yet, and that's what happens when those connections are missing, when we feel alone even in a world full of people. Today, we're talking about loneliness. It's a word that carries a lot of weight. For some, loneliness feels like emptiness. For others, it feels like being invisible. And for many, it feels like a quiet ache that follows you everywhere. What makes loneliness especially puzzling today is that we live in the most connected era in history. With just a few taps, we can message a friend across the world, share photos instantly, or join online communities around any interest. And yet, research shows that people are lonelier than ever. It's a paradox of our times. We are more digitally connected, but emotionally more disconnected. So in this episode, we're going to unpack that paradox. We'll talk about why loneliness is so common, the difference between being alone and feeling lonely, how loneliness impacts mental health, and gentle ways to begin easing the ache of disconnection. If you've ever felt surrounded by people yet still lonely, or if you've struggled with isolation in quieter ways, this conversation is for you. Let's start by asking why loneliness is rising. Technology has given us endless ways to connect, but those connections are often shallow. Scrolling through social media gives the illusion of closeness, but it rarely provides the depth of a real conversation. We see highlight reels of other people's lives, which can make us feel left out or inadequate. Instead of bridging the gap, sometimes technology widens it. Add to that the busyness of modern life, long work hours, constant hustle, frequent relocations, and the opportunities for meaningful connection shrink. It's also important to understand the difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Being alone is a physical state. It simply means no one else is around you at that moment. Some people enjoy being alone. Solitude can be peaceful, creative, even healing. Loneliness, however, is an emotional state. It's the painful feeling that your need for connection is not being met. You can feel lonely in a crowded party if no one truly sees you. You can feel lonely in a relationship if your partner doesn't understand you. And yes, you can also feel lonely living by yourself if there's little contact with others. So it's not the presence or absence of people that defines loneliness, it's the presence or absence of meaningful connection. The impact of loneliness on mental health is significant. Loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's also a signal. Just like hunger tells us we need food and thirst tells us we need water, loneliness tells us we need connection. But when loneliness persists, it can harm both the mind and the body. Studies show that chronic loneliness increases the risk of depression and anxiety. It can make stress feel heavier and recovery from challenges more difficult. Physically, loneliness is linked to weakened immunity, higher blood pressure, and even shorter life expectancy. Our brains and bodies are wired for connection, and when that connection is missing, everything struggles. Loneliness can look different across stages of life. Students moving away from home for the first time may feel isolated on campus, surrounded by peers, but unsure how to find belonging. Adults in big cities often experience loneliness despite being in crowded places every day, because crowds don't equal community. Elderly people may struggle with loneliness after retirement, after children move away, or after losing a spouse. Each form of loneliness has its own challenges, but the common thread is that human beings crave to be seen, heard, and valued. Without that, we feel invisible. So what can we do? Coping with loneliness doesn't mean instantly filling your calendar with people or forcing yourself into noisy spaces. It begins with acknowledging the feeling without shame. Too often, people blame themselves for feeling lonely, thinking it means they're unlikable or flawed. But loneliness is not a personal failure, it's a human experience. Accepting it as such can remove some of the sting. You are not broken for feeling lonely. You are simply human. One gentle step to ease loneliness is to take small social risks. That might mean starting a short conversation with a coworker, joining a local group that interests you, or sending a message to an old friend. The goal isn't to suddenly build a huge network, but to create little bridges of connection. Over time, those small bridges can grow into meaningful relationships. Another step is to focus on quality rather than quantity. 10 acquaintances who barely know you won't ease loneliness as much as one friend who really understands you. Seek depth, even if it's just with one or two people. That might feel vulnerable at first because true connection requires openness, but vulnerability is where real closeness begins. Building community is also a powerful antidote. Community doesn't have to mean a large organization. It can be as simple as a book club, a fitness class, or volunteering at a local charity. These shared activities provide natural opportunities for connection without the pressure of forced conversation. They create a sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. Interestingly, one of the ways to cope with loneliness is also to strengthen your relationship with yourself. Sometimes, when external connections are lacking, the best thing we can do is cultivate internal connection. Journaling, meditating, spending time in nature, or practicing creativity can help you feel more at home with yourself. The more comfortable you are in your own company, the less overwhelming loneliness feels, and the more prepared you are to connect authentically with others when opportunities arise. As you work through loneliness, it's important to remember that the goal isn't to never feel lonely again. Loneliness will come and go throughout life. The goal is to respond to it with kindness instead of judgment, and to take gentle steps toward connection when you can. If loneliness feels overwhelming or long-lasting, reaching out for professional support is also a wise step. Therapists and counselors can help you navigate the layers of isolation and guide you toward healthier connections. Let me pause here to emphasize one key truth. You are not the only one who feels this way. Even if loneliness tells you that you're alone, the reality is that millions of people are struggling with the same ache. Knowing that doesn't erase the feeling, but it might remind you that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not the only person scrolling late at night wishing for a deeper bond. You're not the only person who feels invisible in a crowded room. You are part of a larger human story, and that story includes both loneliness and the possibility of connection. As we come to the close of this episode, I want to invite you to reflect. When was the last time you felt truly connected? Not just surrounded by people, but genuinely seen and heard. What made that moment possible? And what's one small step you could take this week to invite a little more connection into your life? It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be calling a friend, joining a community group, or simply smiling at someone on the street. Loneliness in a connected world is one of the great paradoxes of our times. But paradoxes can be softened step by step when we approach them with awareness and care. Remember, loneliness is not a life sentence. It's a signal, and signals are meant to be responded to. Thank you so much for listening to Dimmer. If this episode resonated with you, please follow the podcast and share it with someone who might need a gentle reminder that they're not alone. In our next episode, we'll shift our focus towards resilience, how to build inner strength that helps you navigate both loneliness and connection, stress and calm, difficulty and hope. Until then, take care of yourself, be kind to your mind, and remember that you are never truly alone in your journey.